Hi everyone, ciao! Welcome to this Get Your Guide video. My name is Elena and I'm a tour guide in Rome and in the Vatican City. Today I want to guide you through the Vatican museums. We will have a virtual tour through one of the most important collections in the world. Together we're going to check out the highlights, we will see some of the hidden gems, and of course we are going to enter the Sistine Chapel to enjoy the beautiful frescoes by Michelangelo. And at the end of the tour, as if we were in a real tour, feel free to leave comments and questions in the comments section below. Why did I choose the Vatican Museums today to show you? Because it's like my office. I'm so lucky to be there almost every day and to guide people through one of the most important museums in the world. I've been guiding people for more than 5 years inside the Vatican Museums and in Rome, and I've been working with tourists for more than 10 years. I'm so lucky because, I've always loved traveling and speaking foreign languages, and so my job is perfect. Even if I'm not traveling, I can still meet a lot of people from all over the world. Today the tour will be virtual, which means we can, relax, stay seated, and we can enjoy the beautiful galleries of the museums without even doing one step. But when you come to the Vatican City, make sure you're ready to walk a little bit because the Vatican galleries have so much to show. In these days in Italy and all over the world, we are going through a very tough time. We are asked to be at home as much as we can, and we are all staying at home now. Unfortunately, many activities are not running as they should and not running as normal, and many activities just stopped. Like mine, for example. I cannot give tours now because, museums are closed and we cannot go on the streets. So that's why we're using the help of technology now. We have the internet, we have the social media, so we can still, travel virtually, and we can actually work on our next trips. So we can, update our bucket list. Why not? And I hope that after watching this video, if you haven't been to the Vatican, you want to book a ticket to Rome. And if you've been to the Vatican already, well, you want to come back. Are you ready to start the tour with me? Let's go. Andiamo. The very first thing that I want to show you is that the Vatican City actually has a different flag, a different language, different, banks and post office because it is a different country. It's independent from Italy, it's its own state, and it is the smallest state in the world. Here you can see the flag that is yellow and white, and on the white part you can see the cross keys and the crown of the popes that are, the rulers, the leaders of the Vatican City. Now, my tour today of the Vatican City starts with the Pinecone Courtyard. The Pinecone Courtyard has this name because, as you can see in the picture, there's a big pine cone made in bronze decorating the courtyard. The pine cone was found in the area of the Pantheon, and that's why, that is, in Rome downtown, and that's why the area of the Pantheon still nowadays is called Pigna, which in Italian means pine cone. That used to be a fountain. It was made by the ancient Romans almost 2,000 years ago. So it's an ancient piece right inside the Vatican Museums. And in the Pinecone Courtyard is not the only piece you can see. There's also another big part, another big work of art, that is the sphere that you see right in the image there. That's a contemporary work of art. It's called a Sphere with Sphere. And it was made by the artist Arnaldo Pomodoro 30 years ago. So it dates back to 1990. Now, the sphere is called the sphere within sphere because this is what it represents, but the meaning of the work of art is that, you cannot judge people from the outside. You cannot judge a book by its cover. So the artist wanted to say that things from the outside are not as they really are inside, because from the outside you can almost see, only see almost a perfect sphere, but then inside it hides another mechanism, another sphere. Now, we are about to enter the Vatican palaces. We're about to go up to the heart of the collection of the popes. We are starting with the statue of Apollo. Apollo, was a pagan god. He was the god of poetry and the god of music. And he has always been considered the representation of classical beauty. Still nowadays, we use the expression is an Apollo to say someone is very good looking or very handsome. And the face of Apollo, the statue that was made by the ancient Romans in the first century after Christ as a copy of an original Greek statue, the face is right here, is the face of Jesus Christ in the Last Judgment inside the Sistine Chapel that we will see in a while. This is to say that Michelangelo was inspired and took this statue as a model for the face of Jesus Christ in the Last Judgment. And this is really the Renaissance. This means that, the artists like Michelangelo in the 15th and 16th century took inspiration from the statues made by the ancient Romans and ancient Greeks. And this is an example. The next statue I want to talk to you about is the Laocoon. Laocoon is the person right in the center. He was I'm sure you'll remember, the story of Troy and the Trojan horse. And he was the priest that was trying to warn the Trojans from accepting the horse that was supposed to be the gift, from the Greeks. But nobody listened to him. He understood it was something dangerous. So then we know that the city, of Troy was destroyed because the horse actually came inside. Now, since the gods were on the Greek side, he was actually punished. 2 snakes were sent to kill him and his sons. And this is actually what is happening right in front of us. Look at the perfect anatomy. Look at the desperate expressions, of these people right here. The statue was found in Rome downtown right at the beginning of the 1500s when Pope Julius II was in charge. And it was Michelangelo himself that suggested the Pope to get the statue because he had understood it was something very special. So this is really the heart, of the collection of the popes because these are the very first statues that entered the palaces and started the collection that nowadays we call the Vatican Museums. There's also another statue I want to show you. It's not so famous as the previous ones. It represents the river Arno, which is the river in Florence. The rivers in the past were represented, as you see here, as male figures with big beards. Now, this statue was found during the time of the Pope Leo X in the 1500s. And, it seems that the artists that were restoring the statue in order to honor the name of the Pope Leo, they added a lion's face inside the vase. That's why you can see the little lion's face in the vase. Now, so far we've been into courtyards of the Vatican Museum. So we are really entering the indoor palaces of the Vatican, and you're going to see that they are mind-boggling. Why? Because not just the works of art are beautiful, but even the container of these beautiful works of art is just a work of art itself. So the architecture is another work of art. To give you an idea, this is the Hall of the Muses. Look at the beautiful, floor, the ceiling, and the architecture. The Hall of the Muses. Who were the Muses? The Muses were the protectors of art, music, and poetry. And guess where the word museum comes from? It comes from muses, as well as music comes from music. And I hope you are amused. Now, right in the center of the room, you can see the statue that is the most important one in this room, called Torso. Because what remains of the statue is just the torso of this man. Why is this statue so important? First of all, because it is an original Greek statue made in the 1st century before Christ. And look, there's still the signature of the art is written in Greek letters. You can read in the first line Apollonio, that was the artist of the statue. And it's very rare to find, the signature of the artist. By the way, the statue was actually used by Michelangelo, again, as a model. So probably, there's this tension of the body, of the muscles. Look at the strength, that the muscles are about to free. And it's amazing the fact that there is a piece of marble. This guy is seated, he has no arms, no legs, and no head, but still we can feel, how powerful it is. And so Michelangelo, that used to consider himself the student of the torso because he tried to study the tension and the anatomy so much that he recreated probably this torsion right in the torso of Jesus Christ in the Last Judgment, or maybe in St. Bartholomew, that is still in the Last Judgment. So we are really going, through the same itinerary, let's say, that Michelangelo did before painting the Sistine Chapel. Our next stop is my favorite gallery. This is called the Gallery of Maps. Why is this my favorite gallery? First of all, because, here, you can have a walk all around Italy without going out of the Palace of the Vatican. What does it mean? From the point of view where we are in the image, that's the south of Italy. All around on the right and left-hand side, the maps of the different regions of Italy were represented in frescoes. So there are maps all over. So from the south, we will walk up to the north of Italy. We have the east coast on the right and the west coast on the left. Now, these maps are so accurate. To give you an idea, this is the map that represents Italy. These maps were painted at the end of the 1500s, imagine. So when GPS weren't existing yet. But they are so accurate because there was a geographer called Ignazio Danti that traveled all over Italy, and he made the drawings, the sketches of these maps that were then painted in this gallery inside the Vatican City. Now, here you have, for example, Sardinia. And here you have Lazio, which is the region of Rome. And right at the bottom, in the square that you see in the bottom on the left, there's the zoom of Rome. Look, here you can see Roma in the first line. And you can see how Rome looked like in the 1580s. You can see the Tiber River dividing the city into two parts. On the left, you see the Vatican, and on the right-hand side, you can see the rest of Rome. It's amazing the fact that these maps are so accurate, and they were made only, in the 1580s. This is the ceiling of the gallery, so this is actually what I was trying to explain to you before. The architecture as well is an amazing work of art. And imagine that this gallery was actually commissioned by a pope called Gregory XIII. He became so famous in the history because he is the one that reformed the calendar. The calendar that we use nowadays is actually called the Gregorian calendar because it was reformed when Gregory XIII was pope. And now we are entering the so-called Raphael rooms. The Raphael rooms are 4 different rooms that used to be the private apartment of the Pope Julius II. Julius II called Raphael the greatest painter of the 1500s to decorate his own apartment. So imagine to wake up in an apartment like this. There are 4 different rooms. The most important one, the most famous one, is this one that you see here in the image, in the picture. It's called the Room of the Signature. It used to be the private library of the Pope, and then it became the tribunal of the church. So that's why it was called the Room of the Signature, because they were signing a lot of documents in there. The most famous fresco in that room is called the School of Athens, which is really an iconic fresco. Now, you can see here a lot of people walking in a building that is about to be built. That is the new St. Peter's Basilica, the one that we see now, that was commissioned by Julius II, the same pope who actually commissioned to Raphael the decoration of his apartment. And he is also the same pope who commissioned to Michelangelo at the same time the decoration of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Now, right here, you see all these people walking inside St. Peter's Basilica, new St. Peter's Basilica, and these people represent the great minds of the past. I'm talking about great philosophers, mathematicians, the greatest minds of the ancient times. Right in the center, you can see 2 men that represent Plato, the one with the beard, and Aristotle next to him. These 2 men are the greatest philosophers of the past. And as you can see, they are right in the center of the fresco, and they are so iconic. This fresco is so iconic that it was also, they were chosen as the image of the ticket of the Vatican museums. Now, Raphael actually decided to model some of the characters with the faces of the greatest minds of the Renaissance, his contemporary time. So here you can see the Plato has the face of Leonardo da Vinci, the one with the big beard. And Raphael here represented also Michelangelo in the fresco. This was actually a last minute decision. I mean, Raphael added Michelangelo at the very end when he had already, started working on the fresco right in that room. Why did he do that? Because as I was saying before, Michelangelo and Raphael were working together in the Vatican at that time, and probably Raphael had already seen what Michelangelo was doing inside the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. So probably he thought that he deserved a spot among the greatest ones, and that's why we have him right there. And Raphael also painted himself right in the same fresco. The guy that you see, popping out with his face, a black cat, a black cap, and a red shirt is actually Raphael. So that's his kind of signature. And now we have just arrived at the Sistine Chapel. The Sistine Chapel, is the masterpiece of the Vatican museums. It's the place to go. Why is it so famous all over the world? Because of the frescoes by Michelangelo. He painted the ceiling and the Last Judgment. And this is also very famous because it's the place, and the Sistine Chapel is the place of the election of the new Pope. When the conclave, the meeting of the cardinals to elect the new Pope takes place, it takes place right inside the Sistine Chapel. But let's start from the name. Why Sistine Chapel? Many tourists, usually ask me if this is the 16th chapel and if there is a 17th one. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but the name Sistine comes from the name of the Pope Sixtus. Sixtus IV was the Pope who commissioned the chapel, and that's why the chapel was named after him. So at the end of the 1400s, 15th century, the Pope Sixtus actually inaugurated the chapel, and he called at the very beginning the best artists from Tuscany, like Botticelli, like Perugino, for example. And these artists were the ones who were commissioned the side walls. On the right and left-hand side, they represented the episodes of the lives of Moses, Old Testament, and Jesus, New Testament. Michelangelo was called by Pope Julius II to decorate the ceiling. The ceiling was painted by Michelangelo himself in 4 years when he was around 30, so he was pretty young. And right in the ceiling, he represented the Genesis. The Genesis is the very first book of the Holy Bible, is the beginning of the world, the creation of the world. So in here, it represented the creation of the world, the creation of Adam, episodes of Noah. So the beginning of the world is right above our heads when we are inside the Sistine Chapel. And the most iconic fresco here is, of course, the creation of Adam. Why is it so famous? Because here Michelangelo was able to represent the creation of life. How did he do that? He actually created a kind of contrast in between the energy that is on God's side, and in front of him you can see Adam that is, has no energy at all because he's about to receive life for the first time. And look at the cloth where God is. You see what's behind him. It looks like, the shape, it has the shape of the human brain. And here, Michelangelo is giving us a message. We have to use our intellectual skills because they are the representation of the beauty of God. And then the Last Judgment. The Last Judgment was painted by Michelangelo when he was around 65. So, it was quite old for those times to still, work. The Last Judgment is actually the last day of the world, at the moment of the final judge. Jesus Christ will judge us and he will send us to heaven or to hell. So right here you see a big wall with more than 300 figures. It's hard to understand where you want to go, where is heaven, where is hell. Well, the central figures is Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary, so they are right in the center. Look at Jesus, you can recognize the face of Apollo and maybe, the torso of the statue from Greece that we have just seen. So this is really the Renaissance. All around them is where heaven is and where you can see some of the saints. For example, Saint Peter, that is always represented with the beard and the keys of the kingdom of heaven that Jesus Christ gave him. And then you can see another saint. Here you see Saint Bartholomew. Saint Bartholomew was skinned alive during the persecutions of the Christians. That's why he's holding his skin on his left hand. And look, right in the middle of the skin, there's a very distorted face represented. That is the self-portrait of Michelangelo. And right at the corner of hell, which is on the bottom floor on the right, we have this guy here. Who's this guy that deserved to be right in the corner of hell? He was a kind of assistant of the Pope. His name was Biagio. And this guy, while Michelangelo was working inside the Sistine Chapel, dared to criticize him because of all the nudities and naked bodies that he was representing in the Last Judgment. Michelangelo, who had a very difficult personality, took his revenge. And so, the story says that he wanted to punish him and to put the face of that guy right in the corner of hell. You can see that he has long donkey's ears and he has a snake around his body punishing him. That's the story. Now, we're at the end of the tour, and I actually couldn't end with something more beautiful than the Sistine Chapel. First of all, thanks for watching the video and thanks for following me up to the end. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did in giving you this special tour today. And I hope to see some of you one day on a Get Your Guide tour in person. If you want, you can sign up to the newsletters to receive more amazing content. I know, we're going through a very tough time now, but remember, it won't last forever. So keep dreaming and keep exploring the world, even if virtually. I'm looking forward to meeting you in Rome to show you the beauty of my city. I thank you very much and see you soon. Ciao.